What's up, everybody? Welcome back to So You Want to Be an Art Director. This is tip number 3. Tip number 3. No, you don't know everything, and neither you will, nor have to be honest. Embrace it and turn it into a learning opportunity. Open your eyes and your head to what the others have to say. Admit when you don't know something and either promise to learn more or ask for explanations. You will grow learning from others. So I actually got really good feedback from one of you, the viewers, Frey989. Thank you so much for your feedback, man. It was so good to read that and realize where I can provide you all more value, right? And yeah, I just thank you so much for the feedback on like just sharing my experience and how that is going to be different. And so that's what we're going to start doing going forward. And again, I welcome constructive feedback from all of you, however way I can help provide value. So I'm going to cut to the chase here. Okay. I'm going to share with you like my experience with this and why this tip is such a good tip from Remy. So, even to this day in my current role, I do not know everything. Okay. It's insane the amount of things that go on, even in making a game like FC, right? Where every year people make fun of us and say, oh, we do nothing. All we do is we slap on the next number at the front of FC, right? So this next year is going to be FC 26 or whatever, right? So like people, and we, us working on these games or just any game in general, if it's a sequel, we understand fans and their passion for the game. So we get it. But even then, when we're making, if you're working on a game that's an annual game, it doesn't mean that it's super simple. There's reasons why making video games is so difficult and why so many games, there are thousands and thousands of games being made right now as we speak, but only a handful of them actually go to market. Okay, I shouldn't say a handful. Maybe hundreds of them make it to market, but only a handful of them you even hear about and are successes, right? So, I come from an environment artist background, and I spent a year and a half with hard surface and weapon design. My strengths are in those areas, right? Being an environment artist, being a level artist, doing weapons and stuff like that, right? This meant that during my early years of transitioning from an artist to an art director, I had limited knowledge of character art, animations, VFX, and lighting. Okay, like I dabbled, I got exposure, right, with lighters and lighting and things like that, working with them on my levels and such, but I didn't have experience on, like, if someone told me I need you to go and light this level, I wouldn't know how to do that in Frostbite or in Unreal, like properly, like in a game environment where I'm baking lights and doing all those things, right? So I spent a lot of time after hours studying the fundamentals in those areas to make sure that I didn't have major gaps. And when you start out, you will have gaps. You will have gaps. But you want to minimize those gaps, right? So I asked tons of questions to my leads in those respective areas. I made sure lines of communication was wide open, right? And I was very honest with them, letting them know that this is an area that I am not as experienced as I would like to be. Showing them that human side of me, I felt allowed them to let me in a little bit instead of having like this hard wall of like, I think I know everything, so therefore listen to what it is that I have to say, right? So yeah, so that was really important. At first, I'll be honest, I was extremely overwhelmed when I became a director. I did not have a transition, if I'm being honest. I was taking over for someone who was being let go. So it was really rough. I worked tons of overtime. I put a lot of pressure on myself to try and learn as much as possible because I hated feeling like I was not good enough as an art director. Eventually, I had other directors who were more experienced than I who reached out and, you know, mentioned, and I mentioned to them, I shared with them how I felt, and they made me realize that I was being very tough on myself, while others were not seeing all of these flaws that I was seeing in myself. And they just reminded me of the situation that I was put in. You know, I was not put in the typical situation. Either one, you have already have art directing experience from previous roles. You know, I wasn't. That wasn't the case for me. For me, it was, hey, you're a lead. You have aspirations of being an art director. We're not happy with our current art director. We would like to make you the new art director. So there was no handbook. There was no, hey, this is where things are at with all these different departments. This is how I've been running things. Like, there was none of that. It was just like, boom, here it is. Figure it out. We trust that you're going to be able to figure it out, right? And that was really tough. That was really, really tough. And so when these directors came and spoke to me, you know, they tried to let me know that, hey, what everyone was seeing was someone willing to learn, someone who can be molded, someone who has an open mind and clearly is going to put in the hard work. And, you know, when they shared that sentiment with me, it made me realize that, sure, I might not be the art director that I am now, but I have to remember that I'm just learning. And just like anything in life, when you're just learning something, you're not going to be perfect. You're not going to be good at it. You're going to be trash at it, actually. But you need to understand why you're doing things incorrectly. How are things that you can improve, right? And that's just part of the learning process. So to wrap all this up and to wrap up this tip, no, you don't know everything, and that is okay. You know, be ready to learn from others. Hopefully that helps. See you all next time.